What is good, y'all? What is good, man? It's been a minute, man. I've been chomping at the bit trying to get back on video with y'all, man. Daggone AT&T had an outage with the winter storm last week, so I've been down for almost a week with no ability to get on and StreamYard and stuff like that, man. With the internet, I just went on ahead and switched providers, man. Said forget it. It's ridiculous, man. But it's the night before the game, so just in time, I'm able to, link up with y'all and give you a few thoughts before they kick off tomorrow evening. Again, Buckeye Sports Talk with B. Moses as always. If you don't know who I am, let me introduce myself. You can find me on Facebook, Buckeye Sports Talk with B. Moses, as well as IG, Twitter, B. Moses30. Also, all of these podcasts are uploaded on the fantastic Buckeye YouTube platform. Also, consider checking out their site. They got some great content and a lot of great discussion as well. Shout out to Buckeye Scoop for all the love. But anyway, listen, man, I'm gonna just basically freestyle off my head. I got notes and stuff, but I just been waiting to holler at y'all, and it's been so much. So I'm just kind of gonna go with the flow, to be honest with you, and just kind of speak my mind as it comes to me. But I'll say this to kick it off. There's been a range of different ebbs and flows of energy and how can I put it? And I hate to say vibe because the energy and vibe is so overused, but from the fans, from our hater fans, from Buckeye fans of this matchup with Georgia tomorrow, it's been kind of all over the place. I noticed there was some Georgia fans when it first was announced that they were getting Ohio State, that they weren't as excited. Like, man, they should have got TCU. They weren't getting rewarded with the worst team in the playoffs. But since then, with the exception of maybe a couple, and listen, I've been intently watching Georgia podcast breakdowns from some of the fans and stuff like that. It went from that to extremely confident and to cocky from their fans, sarcastic and just condescending. You know what I mean? It's just like, man, it's very annoying to see that, but it is what it is. That's where we find ourselves. With that said, I expect this Buckeye team to play their best game that they've played this entire season. Why is that? Number one, we have not seen that yet. We haven't seen them put together a full four-quarter game, this season, clicking on all cylinders. It's been close, and I mean against a quality opponent. The Scum game really started out really well, as I've noted in my last video. We came out, executed, held them to, I forget what was it, 9 yards rushing in the first half, and dominated, defensively against their running attack. And, we couldn't sustain it in the second half. We collapsed for several different reasons. The point is, the talent is there and the ability is there. They need to put it together for 4 quarters. So, number one, we haven't seen it. Number two, you can't downplay the new lease on life narrative. Okay? There's nothing like being counted out or being called dead or basically thinking you're done and then being resurrected to be able to redeem yourself and obtain something that you thought was taken away. You can't, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of talented coaches and players who knows they let one slip away against that team up north. And so you got that factor. And then, of course, the preparation time with the bowl game, having time to iron out things. It's one thing if it's a quick 5-day turnaround. You have to kind of get yourself together for the next matchup against a really good opponent. They've had 5 weeks to prepare and to right the wrongs and to put, some different things in and to fix things and whatever and to look themselves in the mirror. Okay. And then on top of that, the undercurrent has been, they don't belong in the playoffs and Georgia's going to blow them out. That hasn't been everybody, but that's been a lot of people, especially a lot of Georgia fans. And then, of course, your own fan base, Ohio State fans, not all, but a good amount, are not very confident that we can win this game, and even basically saying we're going to get dominated and beat, by 2 touchdowns or more. Now, listen, I understand the last outing was frustrating to build up for that, and then how it ended really has been taxing on people's confidence and their hope. I get that. I'm not discounting that. But what I try to do always is step out of emotion, whether it be an emotion like that or an emotion about just being a fan, and just assess everything, look at all the facts on the table, and just try to be logical and say, well, hold on now. It's not that there's an issue of lack of talent and we just need to just pray for a miracle that, we can just pull the old upset from an overmatched team. No, we have the talent. There's talent there to match up with Georgia. Some of the things that we've done are just lack of discipline in spots, execution and things like that. But again, all those things I just mentioned, to me, could be the recipe for them to shift gears into that and to be able to put together their best game that they've played to this point. So that's what I'm hoping to see from our boys on tomorrow. Now, with that said, I did take a look at Georgia. I watched some of their games, and they weren't perfect all year, man. They've had issues running the ball consistently. They've had issues giving up, some pass yards and stuff like that. There's holes. There's some things in, with Georgia that can be exploited, especially with a team that has the talent, like a team like Missouri. They took them down to the wire. They just didn't quite have the talent to get it done. Now, I know the argument is, well, and I actually think this is a fair argument, that Georgia played much better. And I've actually made this point that Georgia's played much better against better competition and things like that. But, you struggled against Kentucky. 16-6 was the final score, I believe. Missouri had them on the ropes, and Missouri is nowhere near the talent of Ohio State. So Ohio State has to play their best game. They have to take advantage of matchups. That the matchup advantage for us, number one, is going to be against their secondary. I watched that LSU game, among other games, but especially that one. 2 lesser quarterbacks than C.J. Stroud and 2 lesser receiver rooms, although I like Butte a lot, was able to exploit some holes in their defense with the pass game. Now, with the problem with Ohio State is they can't just exploit that. They'll have to get 7s and not 3s. Georgia is, I believe, the number 2 in the country, with scoring defense. They're very bend, don't breaky. There was one Georgia analyst I was watching who I actually enjoyed. He wasn't, being we're going to blow him out homer. He had a lot of respect for us. I forget his name, but he was basically saying they're the best bend, don't break defense in the country. And so we can't just move the ball between the 20s. We got to punch that in. And that's something that we struggle with. So with all this time off, my hope is that Ryan Day and this offense have come together to really scheme up what needs and self-scout to determine what gives them the best chance to get those 7s and not those 3s when in the red zone. And honestly, I'm hoping we can get some 7s without having to be in the red zone. Throwing some deep shots over the top against their secondary, which has been vulnerable against the pass, and they have not seen a pass attack like Ohio State. And no disrespect against Tennessee, they got some really good weapons, but this is a little different animal. But anyway, so also with Georgia, you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. That's 2 tight ends. You're going to see some motion. Stetson Bennett. And to me, their run game is cool. It's a good run game, but Stetson Bennett concerns me more. He's the one that concerns me because we've had some issues this year staying in rush lanes when it comes to containing quarterbacks. He can extend plays. He makes mistakes every now and then. He'll do some head scratching stuff, especially like throwing the ball inaccurately at times. But overall, he's pretty darn good, and he can scramble. He's pretty smart. So we have to contain Stetson Bennett. To me, that's number one for this defense, is keeping him in check and not allowing him to run around back there and just go crazy on us. Because I believe we're going to come out like we did early against Michigan and stuff that run. But Stetson can't, go nuts and basically make that all, for naught. So watching them, that's really my biggest concern is Stetson Bennett. I got a lot of respect for what he can do. But other thing I noticed against LSU, because, a lot of people like to talk about Georgia's run game first, but they came out in their first drive with a spread attack. They spread them out and they threw the ball around a little bit. And they didn't just come in, with a heavy set and just try to pound. They spread them out. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Georgia comes out against our defense and how we adjust. They're not a one-trick pony. They can do some different things. And of course, with the tight ends, everybody talks about their tight ends. They're really, really good, obviously. But a lot of times they use their tight ends to bait you into an over-the-top post route for the receivers. They'll try to get you to overreact to their tight ends to find a receiver downfield for a touchdown. So they got a pretty good nuanced offense at times when you watch them. But again, they've been stopped. They've been stymied this year. Kentucky did a good job defensively against them and limited them and really, stifled them at times. And Kentucky's a solid team, but the point is we have the capable talent to do a lot of similar things some of those other teams did. To come out not just with a good game plan, but the whole mental stamina. Competitive stamina Ryan Day talked about all year. That has to come into fruition this time in this game for 4 quarters. Period. If they can do that, we'll be in this game to have a realistic chance at the end. Georgia is a really good team, but this is not an unbeatable Georgia team. And I think as good as Georgia is this year, and I have a lot of respect for them, I think they're being crowned a little too much. I think that they're getting a little extras put on them, and I don't think Ohio State's getting enough credit for their talent and what they bring to the table. And partly it's because of what happened in the scum game. But a lot of analysts and a lot of fans don't really watch games like that. They look at the score, they look at the highlights on ESPN, and they don't really go back and watch and see what happened and why it happened. So then they come away with an analysis that's kind of premature and doesn't tell the whole story. But I'm telling you, this Ohio State team matches up well with the Georgia team, and I believe it's going to come down to 4 quarters, and it's going to be a really close game to the end. Now, Urban Meyer said the team with the ball last is going to win. Maybe so. I definitely think it's going to come down to the 4th quarter, and Ohio State will be in this with a chance to win this game. I got Ohio State 38-34 against Georgia. I mean, why pick against the Buckeyes when I feel like they have a solid chance to win in this game? I can see Georgia winning a close game as well. They're favored to win. But I think our boys can handle business if they show up and do what they need to do, period. All right, so a summary of some key points to this game. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. Stetson Bennett. We have to get pressure on Stetson Bennett. We cannot allow him to scramble around back there looking downfield. We can't allow him to find open rush lanes because our defensive ends didn't keep contained. We have to keep him in check. We have to try to confuse him. I'm hoping Jim Knowles, and I'm believing Jim Knowles will have something ready to at least give him some pause back there. So that's number one. Even more so than their running game. Number one, Stetson Bennett, keep him in check, and maybe put him on his butt at least 2 or 3 times. And then I'm looking for Zach Harrison to do what he does well, which is bat balls now, and even JTT. So there's that. Also, interior O-line has to play their best game. I know there's going to be some double teams. They got some schemes and things ready for Jalen Carter, but they got to keep number 88 in check. They have to have a plan for him and be effective with that plan, or it's going to be a long freaking night. I'm going to be super pissed if I see Jalen Carter holding CJ Stroud up like a baby, like he did the LSU quarterback. Miss me with all that, please. Got to keep 88 in check. And then I would say offensively, the play calling, Ryan Day has to be the play caller that we all crown him to be. Recently and lately, it's been real sketchy and shaky. He's gone away from the run too early, too often. He hasn't stayed with things that have worked enough. He needs to get back to that brilliant, balanced play caller that we saw against Clemson, that we saw against earlier against Wisconsin this year. Go back and look at that game. His play calling was marvelous, as far as the nuance of it, the balance, and keeping them on their toes. We need that Ryan Day to come out, to pull up and pull all that stuff out of his bag. Period. We're going to attack their secondary, and I believe we're going to eat, but we got to mix in the run in a timely way, and we have to have some things ready to go in that red zone to get those 7 points. Really, honestly, that's the key. At the end of the day, we're going to move the ball on Georgia. I know some of y'all think, oh, we're just going to be minus, second down and 25 every play because Georgia's just so awesome and we suck. But no, Ohio State's going to move the ball, but we need to punch in 7s and not 3s, period. So honestly, that's really the keys to the game. And I would even add discipline, and up here, no headbutt this game, no goofy stuff like that. It starts up here, and they got the talent to do it. And to me, if they can do all these things, like I said, it's going to be a 4-quarter game regardless, in my opinion. We'll see. But they'll have more than enough to win this football game against Georgia if they can do those things. All right. I holla at y'all. Appreciate y'all for listening. And go Bucks, man. I'm excited. Let's do it. Peace.